Welcome to Flory Models, I'm Flory. Busy week this week. We've got lots of reviews for you. We've got what we got up to at the members meet on Sunday. Some of it we can put up, a lot of it we can't. Okay, and we've got these two builds which we've actually completed and talking about the ones coming up. So we've got quite a bit for you. First up then, obviously vixen got finished first, to be honest. Part 7 of that is up on the site now. Basically, it's getting towards the end of this one. It's been a great build, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have to say, Airfix again have made a stunning kit. Straight out of the box, you could build that. You think we spent £7 on an update set for the photo etch colour cockpit. Basically saves painting it. But then again, some ways I thought at the time you couldn't see much in there. To be honest, you can. So it probably is worth it unless your skills are absolutely spot on for painting it. But nevertheless, part 7 is up now. There's a half-hour part on that one, and then obviously there's one more part after that for finishing it off as well. So there's another hour's worth of video still to come on this one. But as I said, if you haven't got this kit, it's one of your must-haves for the stash. Beautifully engineered, goes together, an absolute treat, and something really different as well. The other thing, the Eagle, which to be honest, I sort of lost my sort of mojo for it. It goes together fine, don't get me wrong, it's just that, you know, technically there's just one or two little glitches, it doesn't go together quite as easily as obviously the vixen did, things like that, but really I get stuck in and do this weathering and things like that on it. Again, thoroughly enjoyed it now, because obviously I've gone through and we've done weathering I haven't done for a long time, like using, actually got them here somewhere, the Tamiya weathering sets, which I haven't used since they first came out. I think I gave it a try. Didn't really get on with them and never used them again. But basically a wash, a little bit of post shading, and the Tamiya weathering sets absolutely come out stunning now. Really looks great. It's one of these ones which the camera at certain angles show it off better than others. When you look at this top angle looking down, not much to it, to be honest, but say you catch it on the side and everything else, it really does look nice. So this is up to part 9 now, which is really going through the painting and everything else with it, and obviously you've got part 10, okay, and there will be a part 11 again on top of this one again. So still lots to come on this one, so I hope you're thoroughly enjoying this one, but as I said, really enjoying them. They're really coming together very well. So, parts 7 and 9 for those, keep you going till there's an hour's worth up there. This week as well I've been getting on and doing some other bits and pieces, so we've got an extended one about doing ejector seats and putting harnesses in using different materials. You'll get a glimpse of that roughly for doing this one here on the F15, but I do it quite extensively on the build. I've done a masterclass on gluing, something really simple, but a lot of guys coming back to it used to use tubes and probably early start sort of stages of the thicker glue, so we talk about obviously brand new types of glue, the way you glue now and everything else. So that one just needs editing up and we'll get that one on the side. So that's the tutorial section being redone as I'm working my way through, so hopefully I can get one part done a week, then we can get them up on the actual main site as well. So, it was also quite a busy week because on Sunday we had our first members meet, and admittedly a lot of it we can't show, purely because I think we'd have to have some type of rating on it, but here's a glimpse of what we got up to. You're all in trouble. Welcome to my world now. You're all
Get an appearance.
It's all the editing. That's it.
I need to speak.
Right, okay, so the plan is, what we're going to do is spray this with a, I don't know, what type of effect you're looking for? Just on plain, like on greys and blues, or camo work?
Greys.
Or
really.
on greys.
Yeah.
Well, if I just use a, just thinking, I think we've got a lot of. If we do Tamiya, if we do it with a gunship grey, and we can show you about lighting up and going through with it. So just imagine that it has been primed, or whatever. Use this one a lot. Everyone got one of these?
Wiping it before you put the top back on. Wipe the rim before you put it back on.
What's that?
I don't know if I can do that. Flash kit.
He just knocks them over.
Yeah, should be right. I've got this.
Finish
As you can tell, I use this one a lot.
That was quite funny.
Who's doing the vixen?
The thing is, it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
hidden behind that little bit. The way I look at it, because this is a cardboard box, bottom and up the side, just to make it a little bit wider is the idea. So I just keep adding paper to it. So at this rate, it's going to be like this deep in a couple of years. One day I might, invest. So usual thing, dinner's going in first. Okay, 50-50 mix. And this paint is really, really old, as you can see. Which is being a bit naughty, because obviously the crud at the top normally will end up in your paintwork. Excuse the women yapping, you see. That's what I have to put up with when I'm filming.
Next time I'll leave it at home.
That's it, you get R2 together, that's it. They don't come up for air. So that's the other compressors you do, cutting in and out underneath. So there you go, Neo. Right, should try that one really.
Turn that off and it won't stop.
So what we do, if you guys want to stand up, feel free.
It's only enough exercise.
Yeah, sorry. So what I'll do, if I just spray lightly this entire tail.
Shouldn't we wear masks?
Yeah.
always going to bang on about it.
Well, they'll give it to you.
No.
Back to latex gloves.
So that sounds like a whole new meeting as well.
Yeah.
That's it. Hold on, that's next week. Sorry, we're just leaving the idea. That's it. To be honest, I do think I've got a bit of a problem with my compressor because it keeps cutting in and out as if the tank isn't physically getting air.
Should I get mine out the van?
Yeah, that's it.
Holding, is that good, mate?
Who?
Holding? Yeah, no. That's always a fast sign.
Compressor,
Yeah.
Oh, it's got a tank on it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I've got one of those Revon Amigas. You know, that's supposed to be absolutely spot on, tip-top compressor. To be honest, I've had it for, about 13 years now.
Just down
Don't
behind
turn
there,
off
switch
and
on the
turn on.
side.
Nice one, done.
You
Yeah, it's supposed to,
draw
but
everything
it
out of the
doesn't.
room.
That one?
That's the one. That way, when the top is fogging up.
You just suck everything towards you.
Yeah.
No wonder you had a bike crash. You're high as a kite, weren't you? Yeah, baby. I can fly. So it was all Phil's fault?
Fingers inside.
Yeah.
A little bit wet this, but it will do.
Did you get back tested?
No, do you know what? The police turned up literally just after I'd done it. Because my top box was lying in the middle of the road. Because I didn't even realise. I pulled the bike up and I stood by my bike thinking, my God, what's just happened? I didn't even realise my box was missing. And this guy pulled up, I said that 5 minutes later, and got out of his car and he's gone to you. Well, actually, yeah, didn't realise it was missing. But that policeman turned up and said, what happened? So I explained to him what happened, and he didn't recognise me or anything.
It's unusual, isn't it?
Unusual, usually they do, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to the guy, and
So how many parts per million of thinners would have been in your bloodstream?
Good job you didn't have your latest creation in the box. That prize-winning entry.
Right, so what I tend to do, tip a bit of paint out, so we won't need much. And then all we'll do is grab a little bit of white. Not that colour. That's what you get for having your mixed colours in. Okay.
It's Mustang wheel well green, that one, wasn't it?
I don't know actually what that was. That's me making
I've
a...
got so many empty jars.
Yeah, they're all empty, just look.
I was thinking about doing the old, sending them all back to Tammy and saying,
Think
hey,
chrome,
what will you give me for this lot?
Been doing American Air Force.
I said, Mustang wheel well green.
So all we do is literally, I'll take a dollop of...
So many paints, so many paints. OCD.
And if you do it like that, you can see roughly what colour you got in your colour cut then. Although when it goes on, it will be slightly darker because it's thinned. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if it works either, but it does work. but when you thin it, it's as if it gets absorbed into the original colour. But what you want to do when you're doing this type of bleaching effect into it and blending in is make it quite thin, so you build it up in layers. Otherwise, if you put it on too thick, it hits, you get the instant colour, and it doesn't give that sort of mottled, bleaching type of effect into it. So what we'll do, we'll just add...
So have you just added the white into...
Just the white straight into this, into the grey that had that. I tipped a bit out, purely because I'm almost out of it. Normally I just add it into here, and away you go. So quite a bit of thinners into there. And because we've thinned it, we just need to lower the air pressure. I've got the tank thing there, but I've got one of these jobbies on here, so you can do your air pressure on here as well. Because what you've got to do now is blow out that original colour that's in here. And normally you'll see the difference quite easily between the two. So it gives you an idea of, okay, what you're actually going to have. You guys over there can see it. But you've got here the new colour and the old colour. Alright, then what you want to do is just up your air pressure until you're happy that it's going to not blow everywhere. You're still going to keep a tight area, but it's quite high. Okay, and then what I tend to do is like centres of panels. So on here, you've got obviously the linings that comes up with the rudder, things like that. So I'll literally go off somewhere, checking your airflow, making sure you're happy it's continuous and doing all right. Okay, and then just lightly push in the centres of all the areas. And the thing is as well, I don't keep it, you know, I'm not trying to make it even, I'm trying to make it random. And I talk about it, I don't know if it's on that bit yet, but I do bouncing. If it's on there yet, but one of the points, so I sort of bounce up and down, so you're getting double coats in areas, making it heavier.
Like that.
That's it.
He's subtle enough.
Yeah. So yeah, you sort of, and then there we go, you're coming in. Then if you do get areas where perhaps you go over the top, just assume you've gone in there and wrecked it, okay, and you've got a little bit of flooding, just leave it. Just don't even worry about it. Just don't even try and dry it off, because otherwise you can end up pushing it around, getting it in panel lines and things like that. All we do is just pop in here, a little bit more in the centres. And then just make some areas a little bit heavier than others. And you tend to, when you look at your references, you'll see it on some aircraft. It's one of those things, when you look at Second World War aircraft, because the photos tend to come from like museums, collections like that, they don't look as grimy as sort of more modern stuff. Like for instance, if you've seen that shot, I did the video of the tornado at Riyadh this year, the Italian one, looked like, I don't know, a 5-year-old had airbrushed it, because it had panels of different colours absolutely everywhere, and obviously at some point it had a flash going up the tail, so instead of painting it all nicely, somebody's gone with a can over the top of it, and that's what it looks like.
I'll have to get myself one of
That's
them.
it. That's it. And to be honest, I have thought about doing it because it's great for weathering, because some of the parts has gone out, brand new panels, look like just around the factory, but it was at an air show as well, so you tend to think they'll take the nicer things.
It was a hodgepodge.
But it was a bit of a mess all over the place.
Or did you look at the link that dealt with?
Yeah.
That was slapped on, dark grey over light grey. And I asked him, he said no, they're never repainted, they're just touched up.
Yeah, just corrosion control, isn't it?
That's it. So
And
we've
that
got it.
airframe was 1981, so that's are they new in there? This one's 1981, this was good.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do when you've got it like this, I'll keep the original colour that I've just lightened, just in case I cock it up. Because that way I've got something now to go back if I need to this stage. So I always keep that little bit of paint. If I don't use it, I'll wash it out and use it again later. We just float this through now.
Note to self, buy 3,000 little pots.
Which are available. Yeah, they are available. Okay, so we go back to the original colour again. Straight in here. And we'll let that come through, going dark again. And what you want to do again is just add blind, a tiny little bit thinner, just to thin it down a bit. because every time you thin it, it will make it harder for it to cover, which is great because it sort of blend in and bleach in, it will soak into. The other thing is, from our point of view, if you do happen to cock it up and go wrong, you're less likely to see it because it's going to take a few coats of this to sort of build it up, and that's all you're really trying to do. Give that a bit of a warm round. And then what we're going to do now is just go around all the power lines that are in there. So we're just going to have basically a form of sort of post shading at the back of it, which hopefully will give us our
Can't do that with a wrap camera. Good or bad skin defined.
And what also I tend to do is go round panels completely, you know, round the outside. So if you've got it so like round here, I'll do round those edges and leading edges as well, even though perhaps theoretically you'd think it would fade off because of it. And then what you can do, once you've done that, is just literally give it a very light dusting over the entire thing to sort of blend it all back down. That way, if you've got any areas on here which are really strong, okay, and looking too dark, then you can just take back the colour a little bit. Like here, the centre, you can just knock it in and take it all back.
Another one.
Another one, you alright, John?
I'll just shut the door, John, right now.
Okay, and keep taking it back until you're happy. So you're going just over with the same colour as you did before, you know, so you can get to the point where you think, look, I want it to be like this is, which is obviously quite strong and looking quite weathered in and all the rest of it, or you can go back to that first colour we started with, but it gives you two chances, or if you like, to get it right. And don't forget, we've got that original colour there, so if we wanted to, we can go back and put that in. So perhaps if you wanted to, you could say, right, okay, we'll give it a brand new panel, so you'll just pop into this one in here and fill in the panel. And you can pick out individuals and do that to give it a sort of real mottly effect as you go over it. But that is really it. But as I say, you can keep taking that back until you're happy.
At some Greek Air Force fancies on YouTube, and they are exactly like that.
Yeah.
You know, really hard worn, you know.
But that's the thing with it, it's not a thing that you can get wrong. So you can go ahead and just push through with it until you like it, because this way, you know, if you're thinking at any point it's too strong, just keep taking it back with that original colour. If you've overstepped it and you think, oh, I think I've wrecked it now, you can just go back and put it in again and do multiple layers. But what I tend to do when I'm doing it, if I'm doing something really heavy weathered like that, is I'll work on sections of the aircraft all over and bring it sort of together at the end. If you want to pass it round. But you think it's quite a quick.
Right, did you want to? Yes,
I bet I could get it wrong really quickly. It's really wrong.
But it's just it's one of those things where a lot of people, like, if you've just built your model and you've got it all painted, you'd be terrified about covering it with a foreign colour technically and go lighter. But by keeping it very thin, you can just build it up. And to be honest, if you make your paint even a little bit thinner as we did there, it will take longer to come along. So it's not like you make one pass and it's like, oh shit, I've just wrecked it. You know, you will take a few coats and you can gently build them up until you think, yeah, that's great. Or you can just pop back with the original one if you think I've overdone it and just take care of it again.
And start again.
And start again. But it's one of those things, you don't have to worry about it.
You stand over there, it's quite stark. It's up close, it's spot on there.
What kind of pressure you spray?
I don't know. To be honest, that's set to 35 psi, but I've got it on, as you say, on the. I've got a quickie on a Mac valve.
Even the runs
and
look
doing
scale.
it. So that's it. An in-scale runs. So that's.
First was getting kicked out.
XF65, isn't it?
That's it. Absolutely. But you can. As I say, it's just one of those really ones that a lot of people would be worried to do. But really, what? Even if you did put a giant run in the middle of that, so what? Literally, let it dry. like we've done here, okay, and then come back and overpaint it. I personally, if I go and wreck one, okay, and we're in and we suddenly do this, okay, what I'll do is I'll leave it completely, and then all I actually do is when that's completely dry, I'll give it a really light going over with a polishing sponge just to take the edge off it, and I'll use it to my advantage, because then all I'll do is, like we did up with this dark patch here, I'll put one over it. Because that way, there's no way you could lighten it, because the chances are that spidering underneath will show through. Okay, but then I'll think, oh, that's all right, we'll use it to our advantage, we'll just put a panel on there, you know, and we'll call it something else. To be honest, there's a good example. I did a Phantom many, many moons ago, and it was the RAF camo paint, you know, with the dark grey and the green, and I had thinners on my thumb holding onto the wing, and I'm holding onto it, didn't realise, took my thumb away and down to plastic. Yeah, it's deckled, it was just post shading. So it's a case of like, what do? Do you try and sand it back and all the rest of it? So I thought, that's okay. We just masked it over, sanded it down and gave it a brand new panel, because I was on roughly where a panel was, so if it's the same here, and I just painted that panel in brand new colours and left it. And the thing is, it works, because, you know, you look at reference shots, they have new panels, new various bits and pieces on there,
Nothing's
things like that. That's it.
Nothing's mixed.
No.
I mean, those Indian mix at Fairford 2 years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
That like I painted it? With a brush.
They probably did. They were having a roll in doing it.
I'll take your first car.
Well, yeah, and it is that thing, you just literally...
That was really effective.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
And it is that thing, like we did there, you just keep going over it until you're happy with it. And if you're not happy with it, all you keep doing is just keep going over it. I don't know what paint you got left. But if you wanted to, you can just go over it and knock it right back.
It's quite stark, isn't it? Yeah, like right, the one like...
Okay, and just knock it back.
Yeah. Sort of like close.
Or have it right back in various
That's it, and you can knock it back in various places.
Yeah.
But as I say, it is, I think you can go from being not a lot to a lot, but it starts by putting down quite a light coat first and blending through.
Yeah. It's difficult to pick it up on the camera though. When
Yeah,
you're sat at
that's
home.
it. And that is always the trouble, that's why it's nice to be here. You can actually see it going down.
Yeah.
You did the
You know,
one as well, yeah?
and exactly, but it's one of those ones you physically cover the entire area. Don't just try and cover a panel. Just go right the way over everything. That way you'll blend it through. Otherwise you're going to end up with patchy. And it's great on patchy on certain things, but when you're trying to do, I think, aircraft, it's better to go for an overall effect, to be honest, like the Tomcat, where it's all over. It's just generally gritty all over it, and then gone through with it.
Okay, and then it started to go a little bit downhill.
Does it get hot?
It does get rather warm, yeah. But it is waterproof.
Where's your hot
Using the
tub?
bath. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Doubles up as a jacuzzi.
Could stop just
Penis
after the...
Penis paint.
It's not the same
Yeah, go and ask for that and B&Q. Can you match this?
And I think we ought to just leave it there. At that point, it really started to fall downhill, so we'll leave it there. But there's lots more. To be honest, we had 13 of us were here. We had a great night, great laugh, and we even had plastic in the cake. Sorry about that, guys. It won't happen again. I think we'll stick with cupcakes next time. But anyway, there's still a lot of footage still to show you. So next week we'll do a little bit more, because John showed us a little bit on doing clear parts and sort of making simple canopies and things like that, which only took 2 minutes with a candle. So we've got that coming up next week as well. The monthly meets will continue, so we'll bring you great footage as we make our way through and bring you lots of the laughs that go along with it. So, other things as well to speak about. I didn't mention it and everybody said, why didn't you? Because I don't like self-promoting. Our new black sanding stick range, which seems everyone absolutely loves, and I must admit it does seem to be my sanding sponge of choice now, because I don't seem to use the others very much, but is obviously available. We now have in stock and on the site the new skinny version of it. Now, the skinny polishers, which a lot of you are asking for, obviously this one will do it because it's got the 1200 grit stuff, which as we know is a very, very fine mesh and can get right down, and obviously you can take these apart quite easily. They peel apart if you want to turn them into something else. So the skinny version of the 1200 is now available on the site, and obviously you've got your standard blue one as well as a skinny or as a sponge. So you can buy these now in triple packs, that's what we're saying. So you can have triple or the 10 packs of the actual skinnies as well. So they are available on the site. Now, this week, obviously the big news was Airfix released the new Merlin. Now, this has been on the cards and then got put back, and then it was in and then it was out. Anyway, we first got a good look at it at Telford, at the IPMS Telford show last year in November, and we all cooed over it, and then it went quiet again. It was like, well, where is it? We were expecting it to be released at the show. Anyway, a little bit out of the blue, all of a sudden it was available and started floating around the shops basically on Friday last week. Okay, and good enough, John, this is his actual kit. Peter, his kit, brought this one along to the meet on Sunday and has kindly left it with me so we can do a little bit of an in-box review with it. I said it's 148 scale. Obviously we've seen this kit before in 172nd with Italeri and things like that, but we've never had a 148. Obviously it is a big old kit. The retail price on this is something around about sort of £50 mark. Have a look online, you can probably find it a little bit cheaper, and by now should be sort of filtering down to all your stores. Now normally I haven't had a look, but to be honest I had to with this particular one. So what do you get in the box? Well, as you can see, not a lot's changed as far as Airfix, the way they do things. You've got your standard type of Airfix instructions in here. Okay. As I said, not having built this one and never seen anybody build one either, it's a bit hard to know exactly how it all goes together and everything else. What I have noticed though going through is it's quite crude, as we almost expect with Airfix. It's almost, I don't know, like a little tiny step back. After doing the sea vixen, fantastic, no problem at all. This one, I don't know. I don't know if it's its scale, if it doesn't seem to lend itself well. It's quite a big lump. You think it's bigger than the sea vixen when it's built. But anyway, making your way through the build as you'd expect. So we've got, obviously, you build the full interior for it, then you've got an external one goes onto the outside. Some nice touches with this one, because this is obviously done in the Afghan type schemes, you've got guns with it. So you've got the gun position, the crash seating, all fitted as standard on this one. And as you'll see in a minute, there's lots and lots of variants. So we have got some room in here for scratch building and to super detail if you wanted to. It really would make a nice kit to start out with, a starting place for it. So as you can see, it's what you'd really expect going through. There's no real surprises apart from, as I say, nice touches, these guns, which are on their actual plates as well for fitting in. And you've even got the gun for the tail as well. So if you can have the tail gun fitted as you make your way through. But as you say, nothing out of the ordinary on the way the instructions go. Now, clear parts, he says, just wanting to have a little look. Now, clear parts, notoriously, are very hard to do. And to be honest, these are no exception. Sorry, we're just going to move. I've got the walls just out of shot. So with these clear parts, we've got the obligatory webbing. Now this is, we spoke about it before, is where the injection moulding goes in, and you obviously get a pressure wave where the two plastics come together and they make a webbing. Now the trouble is, when you're doing large parts like this, obviously it gets even harder to do, but I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, this top cam. But what we're seeing, let's say, I don't know if the camera will get it, but we've got quite distinctive on the bottom here coming across, and to be honest, it is on every single clear part on here. Now, okay, you could be very picky now, because the chances are, if you were looking at it, by the time you've got the internals all painted up, stuff like that, you won't really notice it, alright? But it's just one of those things that seems to stand out a lot with actual Airfix. They do tend to sort of miss the beat when it comes to this. Now, it could be just because, I don't know, whoever they're getting to do their injection moulding isn't as careful as others. So, as you'd imagine, okay, so having a look on here, as we can see, we've got a little bit of flash down here, actually on the sprues themselves, and the sprues themselves look quite nasty because there's pinholes in it everywhere, and sink marks in the actual sprue. Obviously we're not worried about that. Looking at the actual parts themselves, you get a good idea of the size of this thing, when you think it is basically almost a foot long measurement here. It's going to be 38 centimetres, all done this thing, something like that. As I said, a little bit of texture on the plastic itself. If we were doing gloss, we would probably worry about it. We're not doing gloss, it's going to be flat, so I'm not that worried about it. It's quite soft, the plastic, it's very, you know, floppy, shall we say. But we've got nice detail on the floor area. We've got obviously the latching areas and the buckles and type things. Nice bit of detail, riveting and things like that on the floor plan. The roof, as you've got it up here, we've got some nice moulding, obviously where the insulation and soundproofing is, where it actually sinks down, which is quite nice. And then again on the actual side ones, a little bit of on the door. We've got no flash really that you'd ever complain about on the main parts. There is a tiniest little bit, but nothing you would really worry about. Okay, next sprue up, a big one here. Again, feels quite heavy. We've got the sponsons on the side here for the main gear, the gear area, the tail rotor system. The hubs have all got sink marks in them, which is quite annoying. I don't think it actually will have in real life, but these are the parts where the blade joins the rotor hub itself. They've all got sink marks, apart from the one on the end, which then obviously tells me that it shouldn't be there. Okay, so we've got some nice detail down here. We've got the actual fan blades or the compressor blades for the main engines. We've got weighted wheels, quite a nice touch, and obviously we can see the gear area down in there as you work your way through all of these. Round the top, tail ramp, as you say, not too bad at all. We've got various details that are worth mentioning. If we bring the top cam down, I don't know how well you'll see those sink marks in here, but they're quite noticeable, all of those right the way across. As I said, got the cockpit, some of the details around here and these weights on the wheels and various things. We've got the top part of the actual, and the framing as well by the look of it, up here for the actual cockpit area and the door. So as you say, it's crude, but it's all there. I know it's one of those sort of, you know, the things you say you sort of try and work out. It's, you know, it's all there in the way of detail. It's just that, I don't know, you're almost expecting a little bit more, if you're honest. But there again, it is what it is. It's a 148 helicopter. When you're dealing with obviously some of the 132nds or 135th scale choppers, then they have a lot more detail. But there again, they don't tend to have that much. Okay, so down in here we've actually got various things. Looking at the blades, they all look very nice. Obviously, you don't get any rotor droop on these because they're sort of very, very solid. So looking through, we've got various guns, we've got pedals, all the tiny little details. There's no real evidence of flash on any of it, which is quite nice. Working the way through. The seats all look very nice as well. So no complaints there. Again, more crash seats, obviously all for the rear cockpit, as you can see down in the bay, and the backs for all of those. All the cutters, the wire cutters on the aircraft, backs of the seats, various things. A little bit of soft moulding on these joints maybe. These are the sides of the engines. I don't know, just looks a little bit soft and everything else. So we've got the little FLIR turret that goes on the front. Very nicely done as well. And as I said, all the ejector pin marks seem to be out of the way. I wouldn't complain about any of those. They all seem to be nicely out. The only thing is, it did come in one bag, so you did have multiples running loose around the place, which I've still got in the box here, and I will reseal up. So just be careful, because we did end up with these guys running loose all around the kit. Now, one thing that is very nice little touch with this is we do get some very, very nice markings and callouts. Now, they're all going to be green, let's face it. You know, Merlins, unfortunately, they all tend to be that way, apart from the Tiger Squadron ones. So as I said, quite boring, but you've got nice mentions here about where they're from and various things they've done in the past. So, this particular one, Camp Bastion, Helmand Province in Afghanistan 2010, okay. And then as you work through all of these, you've basically got all the other ones. So it's got the cruise names. So again, that's for Telek in Iraq, okay, 26/2008. We've got the training squadron here, Salisbury Plain. Okay, we've got Splat, 28 Squadron, Okay, and here, now this is quite a nice one as well. This is the Benson one, November 2011. It carries the serial code from the Halifax Mark III, okay, Echo Yankee Whiskey, known as Willie, which is a lovely little one. This is the one that crashed in Hank in Holland, 25th of May 1944. It's in a Tiger Meat one as well, so we've got various Tiger Squadron ones on there, because it's the anniversary for the 95 years, from 1916 to 2011. And as I said, it's a bit of a dedication, so it does carry those nice markings on there, so I think we'll be seeing plenty of those at model shows. Decal call out, as you can imagine, it's quite extensive on these, got lots and lots of areas going all the way over it, so that'll be fun putting together. Some of the nice touches though we've got down here showing the actual floor plan and the painting guide for doing that, as well as obviously where you would obviously have decals, things like that as they're going in. But again, it's just nice having these little details to show you exactly how they're painted and where those sort of decals go for it. So the decals themselves, usual thing, they're very flat. I know I complained about it last time, but they did seem to work actually on the Sea Vixen. I had no problems with them at all. But as I said, we've got the tiger marks, we've got the walkways around the top of the aircraft, obviously all the crash type things, and there's that at Willie 1 down there. And as I say, various markings, Royal Air Force, things like that. So all in all, it has been in the pipeline some time. It has been a long wait. Looking at the kit, to be honest, I'm not jumping up and down going, oh my god, it's amazing, I've never seen anything like it, because to be honest, it's standard Airfix. Probably looking at it off the sprue, not their greatest one if I'm honest, but certainly it will build up to make a very impressive lump. Make no doubt about it, the Merlin is a big helicopter, it's very deceptive. You see it flying around, doesn't look that big. You get up to one, they're huge. Okay, so remember, this is a 1/48 scale aircraft, not 1/35 or 32nd. So the test will be in the eating. No, I haven't got the kit yet. As I said, this one's not mine. No, I haven't got any mass plans to go out and build it, you know, straight away, because so we've got lots of things we'll speak about in a moment, but it will be definitely one to do on my to-do list. It would be really nice if they brought out the Navy one as well, because that one's an interesting bird. Built the 1/72nd Italy one, it'd be nice to actually have one in 1/48 as well. Okay, so next up, the airbrush company have sent us something else here. What we've actually got here, this is the Iwata HPM1, I do believe. Okay, now to be honest, we showed this around at this Sunday's meet, and we've all dubbed it the Cricket because it is like half an airbrush. So anyone who's seen Men in Black, you'll get that one. Okay, and is quite possibly the smallest little airbrush you've ever seen. Now, it's not cheap, this particular thing. It is, he says, grabbing his paperwork, this is £106 for half an airbrush. So, you know, very, you know, it's not a cheap piece of kit, that's what we're really saying here. Okay, so actually what we've got, if we just bring this top can down, you can actually see it. What we actually have here is a single action, it's not even a double action. So it's not lending itself well here. But actually what we've got is a system where you would sort of just hold it like this. Okay, so if I just grab my system here, and we just have to grab a bottom off of one of these. If I can get a bottom off of one of these, that's it. So traditionally we're used to double action airbrushes, so obviously, sorry, that works. So actually, normally what happens, you push down for air, traditionally, and you pull back for paint. Well, this is an all-in-one. So now you're thinking, so how does that actually work? Well, actually what you've got at the back here, alright, we're tugging on the hose here, somewhat of a leak somewhere. Okay, you've actually got a system, I'll take that off because it's leaking a little bit, where you dial in exactly what paint flow you want to come out at the end. Alright, which is a little bit foreign to a lot of people, and the only thing that worries me, if you're doing something like an acrylic and it's quite thick, sometimes you need to blow it out, you need to pull that needle back, clean through, because you get a little bit of build up on the end of the needle and it will affect your spray pattern. So as I said, I've never used one like this before. Looking at the details of it, before we have a quick go with it, what we've actually got is a system where you unscrew the back, okay, and your needle is tracked on here. Now I presume you've got a little screw here for replacing the needle, but we've got half a needle on the back. Okay, and then on the front end we've got the little needle guard cover. Okay, and here we've got it. So again, we've got one of these, which I don't like admittedly. It's solid in there, you can't take it out, and you've got the tiniest little air cap that goes on the end, alright? So as I said, they're not a problem, all the time they're fine, but when you chew one off, trying to get it off, they can be a little bit of a problem. That said, speaking to some of the members on Sunday, and they've never had a problem with their end caps. It's just personally I have. So, as I said, I don't think it's always me. Obviously, it comes with some disassembly. Okay, so let's just slip the needle back in. So again, you have to be very careful how you put all this back together. So what we do, we just have a go with a little bit of airbrush cleaner just to see how we get on. So what we'll do, we just grab a little bit of paper, a little bit of acrylic airbrush cleaner. Now again, you haven't got a massive colour cap on the end of this, so we just pop some of this in. Okay, you do get a cap though, which is quite nice. They do another version of this which has got 5mm or whatever it is in here. So you push down, you've got your air, and it is all or nothing. There's no little bit of air. It's not like when you've got your standard double action airbrush. Obviously, the more you push down, the more air you get. This is all or nothing. So we'll unscrew the back just a tad, and out it comes. Actually, we won't do that. We'll do it straight onto here. So I don't know how well you can see this coming out on the end, but it seems to work quite well. Now this is quite a nice pan. It's got the standard 0.35 needle in this, an air cap system, and it eats through that quite quick. As I said, personally, it does fit in your hand very nicely. I thought it would feel alien because you haven't got any back here, and obviously all the weight's at the front. Now, as I say, I've got a Mac valve on mine, which obviously is going to affect, because the Mac valve gives you almost this business down here, all right? But as I said, if you didn't, I don't know, it pulls through a little bit. The Mac valve system and quick release just adds a little bit of metal. But to be honest, I don't know quite how you would hold it. If you were doing just spraying, I don't think you'd have a problem with it at all. As I said, my concern would be, literally, is that you can't retract the needle. If you had any build-up, things like that, you can't pull it back. And as I said, it's not a cheap airbrush. When we were looking at the Neo last week, £40, I think that's a bargain. That's worth a go at anybody's money. Okay, but doing something like this, I think it, is going to be a bit expensive. But there again, if you were doing standard, a lot of spraying, and you just needed to pick up thinned paint through this and just blow and go around with it, then probably very good. It's just that a single action airbrush for our type of hobby and what we use, I think is a little bit old school. Little techniques I like to do, you've probably seen me do it 1,000 times on all my painting, is that literally I dry off. So with this one, you'd have to screw it to stop and then trust that there's no more paint coming out, okay, and then dry off the area, and when you're good to go again, you'd have to then come back, reset it back how you want, and hope it just flows. If it doesn't flow, perhaps you've got a thicker paint, the variables in your actual thing, if it's quite thin, if it's thick, you're going to have to keep dialing it to get it. Where when you've been airbrushing a while, you sort of feel it, and you come off and you blow through, and you've seen me do it 1,000 times during the videos, but with something like this, you'd have to physically crank it, where I'm quite used to having it, on an airbrush, and we just pull back and, clean through and everything else. That said, it's a nice piece of kit. The pluses for this one is, it's still quite heavy. I would still say it's even more heavier than an Evo. Alright, for weight, I don't know what the actual all-up weight of this is, but it does feel very, very solid. It feels like if you drop it, you're going to hurt someone, okay? You're going to hurt your foot. That's the thing with it. So, I don't know, it's one of those ones, I think if you used it exclusively, you would get used to it and have no problem. For me, I'm used to double action airbrushes, and away I go, and if I'm going to spend £110 basically, I'll go on a double action. I'll probably just buy it for an Iwata, I'll just go and buy a double action Iwata and do it like that. I can't honestly see this being used for acrylic painting. Maybe with inks, enamels, things like that, you won't have a problem with it. But I think with acrylics, you need that little bit of variable, the little bit, more pull on the trigger to get it to come through, blowing it out, things like that, when you get a little bit of sticky on the end. I can't imagine it working too well, really. But as I said, if you're using it for inks, artists' work, things like that, I can imagine this being more really for this. If you were putting inks through, doing artwork and things like that, which we don't get any clogging with or anything else like that, or just very little, it will probably be ideal because you would dial in exactly what you want on the back, and every time you will get that coming out. But not having any variables at all apart from what you dial in really is a bit of a no-no for me. So whilst I think it's a very nice piece of kit, extremely well engineered, and it looks very nice, okay, I don't really think it's for sort of, you know, modelling and airbrushing and things like that. Okay, so what are we up to now? Obviously we've got those 2 builds done. Haven't got time to get on with the tank this week because obviously everything going on, but we will have the first part up on weathering that giant RC tank next week. We'll get cracking on with that one. Okay, and then next week what we're going to be doing is starting on the infamous wingnut wings kit. Now inside this box I've got lots of goodies now to go along with this, various turnbuckles, bobs buckles, rigging wire and everything else. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, you'll know, give me a modern jet and I'm away. Give me World War One. The last time I built one of these was a nightmare and it just went horrendously wrong and I never did finish it. Not a wingnut twin kit, I might add, it was just a horrible old sort of rodent thing it was in 148. So by popular demand of the members of the site, they're making me build this. So I think they're all incredibly mean. When there's lovely kits like this one I'll be starting on next week as well. This is, as I said, I banged on about this on a new show you saw, and I wasn't actually going to build it this soon, but I've had so many requests for it, I'm going to crack on with it. This will be a speed build, again, the same as the Sea Vixen, so we'll rattle through this really, really quickly and get to the interesting bits, but it should be a really nice kit. I've seen some of you guys on the site have built this one now and done a stunning job with it, so it's time for me to sort of, you know, take a big bite and get into it and see how we're getting on with that one. So this one will start again this week. So we've got a real different one there. We've got sort of, you know, a Cold War jet and a First World War sort of prop. So you can't get much more different than that. Last up, just got to mention, a couple of months ago we just had a quick chat with you all in the forum, really, it's just your forum guys, about your signatures at the bottom. Now, really, it's just because if the more we all have a little bits on there, so we run through saying really what we're building and everything else like that, and what we have built. Some of you got quite large images as signatures as well, and you've got things flashing around the screen and darting around and doing various things. Okay, the trouble is 2 things that happen. One is it's annoying because you have to scroll past all of that. So if you know, instead of us having lots of little posts on the screen, you've got to scroll through everything. Okay, and it just makes it untidy. Secondly, some of you have had links and stuff like that, and we're getting bots trying to get in the site permanently, and what that's doing is just slowing it down. Okay, so it's just slowing everything down because you've got all these images on there and everything else. When it was pretty clean, it used to run like lightning fast, but now with thousands of members in there, hundreds of posts every single day going up there, it's just starting to slow everything down. So we're asking you all again. Now Hans and Steve and myself and the other members of the team all had a chat this week about it, and we just put up a post now asking you to limit it to really just a couple of inches, 6 lines, and instead of having everything listed below, put them a long way. So if you've got 2 banners, perhaps for the group builds and SIGs we're doing, just put them side by side, i.e. just don't press return when you're putting them in, just put them next to each other and that will line them all up. Okay, if you have got old stuff in there, because old posts from, literally some of you got stuff from years ago in there, delete them, get rid of it, go and have a look. All you got to do, go into your settings, okay, just edit, okay, and down at your signature box, go and have a look at it in there. It's just if you have got a big lump down there, what's going to happen is myself or the members of the team are going to start editing them for you and then crunching them down to smaller sizes, but obviously it's going to eat into our time when we should be building and doing other things. So what we're asking you guys to do is really get on with it and push it through. Same thing goes again, because we did have an attempted attack on the forum a couple of months ago, and that came directly off one of you guys actually having a link in your signature, and it was traced at that and coming back in. Yeah, that was dealt with. They never did get in, but it did affect the site for a couple of days whilst we had to find out where the link was, and that's why all you guys are getting messages saying the forum isn't safe and there's dodgy material on it. That's because one of you in your signatures had a link going externally. That's why we don't allow them. It's fine to link to stuff within the forum, just not externally. It just makes things so much quicker, so much easier. So a big please, if you can get on with that over the weekend, that would be absolutely fantastic, because come next weekend we're going to have to start going around and doing it, and really do we don't want to start doing that. So that's about it for this week. As I said, I've got a great week ahead of me, starting on those two. I don't like starting blank. I like to have stuff permanently on the go and everything else. But there we go. I must just say, last thing, thank you to all the members who did turn up to come down to see me last Sunday. Yes, we will be doing it again. Yes, you're all invited. And yes, when the weather picks up, we'll be having a barbecue out the back and everything else. But a big thank you, because I must admit, I don't think I've laughed so much in here in my life. It was just so funny. And we're not going to be talking about Pink is Pink next time either. So anyway, until next week, everybody, happy modelling and take care.